What if you could make your screen recordings look like they were filmed on a real monitor up close? Instantly make flat screen captures look way more believable and honestly just way more interesting to look at. So let me show you how you can build this effect inside of DaVinci Resolve yourself and save it to use anytime. So once you're inside of DaVinci Resolve, you can drag in any screen recording that you want to modify. So first up, you want to go to your color page on the bottom right. And inside here on the right side, you want to create 7 serial nodes. Either for that, right click and go to add node and then click on corrector, or just press Option and S 7 times in a row. And we will actually start with the second node, but either right click and go to node label and rename, or just press R and name that scan. Because here we will apply the scan lines to that. For that, go to your right side, enable the effects panel if not enabled yet, and search for scan. Then just drag and drop the scan line effect onto your footage, and as you can see, these like black and white bars will appear. But they do look pretty ugly yet. To adjust that, you want to go to the right side and adjust the line frequency, which basically just adds or decreases the line that appears inside of the footage. You can also change other things that are pretty handy, for example the color of the lines and other things like the composite type. Currently it's set to overlay, which is pretty good. But here I found its sweet spot being at 25. I think that works pretty well for the type of footage or material I use oftentimes, but it definitely depends on what footage you have. Also, don't be confused by the preview window here, because oftentimes it makes sense to go on full screen to actually see how the lines look like. Otherwise, you could get the false impression that you actually have many really big lines instead of really small lines. But that brings us to the second problem that we have to fix, because as you can see here, the lines appear basically only on the colored screen, but not on the white areas. And to fix that, we therefore have this first node here, which we can label as contrast. And here you can go to the curves and just slightly decrease that, just enough so that the lines appear. And this happens because in the scan node, this effect is set to overlay, and therefore it only is applied to everything that's not white. You can also fix this problem by choosing a different overlay mode, but oftentimes I find overlay working the best, and then just going to the contrast node and adjusting it slightly here. Next up, we want to warp our image to give it this really cool old TV kind of barrel distortion effect. For that, just search lens distortion and drag and drop it onto your footage, and as you can see, the whole screen is being distorted. Oftentimes I find myself that this effect works right off the box. Also, let's rename it to warp. You can leave it at that if you like this barrel distortion effect where the background stays black, but what you can also do is just go into your fourth node and search up transform and drag and drop the transform node onto that. Let's relabel that, and inside here just increase the zoom by a bit so all the black edges disappear. Actually, for demonstration purposes, let's increase the distortion a bit more so that we can actually see what's happening here with the effect being applied and all that. But let's go into zoom and zoom in again, and we have a really nice barrel distortion going on here. And the cool thing is that the center stays very clean. After that, to give the middle part of your footage a bit more, so to speak, focus, what we can do is go into the fifth node, and now we want to search up for the tilt shift blur. And basically this blur is being applied on the edges of the frame, and it gets weaker inside and it's stronger outside. To visualize what's going on and to adjust it, let's click on blur strength preview, and here we can see everything that's black is not being affected and everything that's white is being affected. And to basically increase the black middle part, we can just go into in focus range and slightly increase that, and then we can also click on the box again, actually see what's going on. And if we like this strength of the blur, we can leave it at that, but if we want to increase it by a bit, we can go into near and far blur, which is basically the top and the bottom part of the frame of the image. And let's go into near blur, which is the bottom part, and let's increase it by a bit. Maybe let's do 0.7, and for the top side to match it as well, let's copy that and apply it. And now we have a very nice kind of depth of field going on the top side and less so in the middle, and then more in the bottom again. Also, let's rename that node to tilt blur. And next up is something that I covered in a previous video that just gives a bit more realism to your footage, and that is chromatic aberration. And here we want to drag and drop the chromatic aberration removal effect onto this middle node. Let's call it CA for chromatic aberration. And what this does is currently nothing, but let's zoom here on the left side of the image, and let's go into red and cyan scale and slightly increase that to maybe 1, so all the way. And as you can see here, it gives this really nice kind of blue and cyan split tone effect. Very subtle, but still visible on the side of the image, but basically your middle part is not being affected at all. And the cool thing is, because the blur is also applied before that, we also get this kind of blurry look right here. So if we disable and enable it, you can even see that this effect is being applied to all the blurry areas. And lastly, let's go into the 7th node and call that Vignette. And you could also use the Vignette vignette node here, but I don't like that much. So rather go into your masks and click on the circle masks, then press Shift and H to actually see what's inside, feather it out, then click this little icon here to invert it, then increase that radius to something like this maybe. Maybe we can also make the feathering a bit less, maybe like that. Then click on the mask again here and turn it off so we can actually see what's going on. Press Shift H again to go back outside of the mask. And now it's up to you, but basically use any tool that you want to decrease the exposure. For example, you could go to offset and just lower it here. And this way you increase the darks on the sides. But you could also just go to gain and decrease the gain here, for example, to maybe something like this. This is really preference, but it just adds a bit more, shadow, a little bit more of a vignette on the side so that the focus is more well in focus. This was how the screen recording looked before. And this is how the screen recording looks with the effect being applied. And the last very powerful tip, if you want to save this effect and apply it in the future as well, just go to gallery, right click and say grab still, and then just rename it here where it says change label and call it something like screen rec. And now whenever you want to use this effect, just drag and drop it onto your clip. But what's even handier than that, let's get rid of that for now here. Just go back into your edit page. Let's say you have multiple clips and you want to apply this effect to all of your different clips on your timeline. You can also just search for an adjustment layer in your effects panel. Just make sure that you have the adjustment clip selected and then drag and drop the effect onto the adjustment clip. And this way you can even then easily, for example, zoom into different clips right here. And the adjustment clip affects everything that's underneath it. And that's really handy if you want to make individual changes to your footage, but not to the effect itself. I hope you enjoyed it and I will catch you in the next one.